Robin, can you hear us okay?
I had to get off. I was talking with a friend in Vermont who had called me earlier, and I had to call him back. And he's one of those we're recording. Oh, Andy's here. Good. Not no.
Hey, Andy.
For formalities.
Hey, Sky.
Yep.
I had Irene call today wanting to know if I was going to attend the meeting.
Yes. We were trying to figure out if we had a quorum, which we actually don't.
Oh, okay.
You guys can meet without a quorum, but you can't vote on anything or make any motion.
Interesting.
So it's going to be either really quick or very focused.
Rick, I guess it's your call. I mean, do you want to?
Hopefully.
Is there anything we can gain by discussing without a majority? I'm not so worried about the voting part as much as I am as, are we going to gain anything? So I'll put that question out there.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, jumping and looking at the agenda, what we had in mind here for today was really just recapping on, you can't approve the minutes, or recapping on what was at the developers meeting. We do have the meeting scheduled with the consultant on the 30th. But they're pretty much in the driver's seat with the agenda on that and taking a look at their comments. We do have some additional comments from public feedback and a follow-up comment from one of the developers. We could go through those and kind of sketch out a response, but after me saying that, with that, giving the rest of the committee a chance to weigh in on some of those responses would be good.
Can I add something really quickly? I think one thing that you guys could do today that would be helpful is, so like prior to today, I don't think much of the comment was based on Topsham center zones that we had gotten. A lot of it was to do with stuff outside of the center zones or other things. I do feel like some of the comments that I dug up that hadn't gotten included for some reason, I don't know what happened there. There was a technical issue. Some of them do have to do with the center zones. So I think it might be good for you guys to at least look at them and see if you want to talk about them with the consultant, or if you're like, no, we talked about this 2 years ago, it's like a non-starter. So I think that could at least be something you could do today.
Well, I think those comments should go to the consultant prior to the January 3rd meeting, so I think it's worth going through them.
Some of them aren't, and I think we should determine if there are some that aren't center ones, that you're like, this is just something for planning board to consider, because that's what we did with the last set of them. So that would be my thought towards it, is look through them, kind of sort them. You don't have to answer them, you just kind of have to sort them.
So did you say this meeting was recorded or is not?
It is recorded.
Okay.
All committee meetings are recorded going forward. Thank you, Joe.
The only thing I think that's a good idea to go through these. There aren't that many, are there, Sky? I guess I want to share with you what's going on with TDI a little bit, so you won't be caught completely off guard when we give you an update later on, probably the first meeting in February. So you let me know, Rick, when you'd like me to talk about that. I can do it right at the end as it was on the agenda. We can go through this first.
See, let's just run through the agenda, and we're gonna probably skip over some of the items here pretty quick then, so. The minutes from last meeting, we can't approve them without a quorum, but Susan did mention that they needed some editing and some review. So I'd say if anyone has notes from that meeting, or, you know, I was not at the meeting, so I may just go back and view the recorded session again and make some comments, but it's probably worth going into the docs and making comments on those notes. The committee project partnership policy. You wanna touch on that, Sky?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna really impact you guys very much because you have a big project that you're working on. It would impact you if you finish Recode and then you decide that you like looking at the comp plan and you wanna take on another project that's, you know, similar to like this Recode, and that like you're trying to address something, maybe you need some consultants and it has like a beginning and an end and a deliverable. So I will say for CPIC, I don't think that's a really big thing. It's also just something that's meant to be helpful to committees to allow them to kind of get their thoughts down in a cohesive way. It gives a little bit more insight for the select board on what committees are up to and when they're starting projects. It's just meant to be something that like a tool that the committees can use to say, okay, we're concerned about this thing. This is how we want to approach it. This is what we're going to need. This is what we can do. So that's what that is. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to talk about it.
Can I make a comment on that? I think conceptually it's a good idea. I understand why it would be desirable to have it, but at 14 pages, that to me is burdensome. I mean, if I have a choice of serving on a committee and having to fill that out or taking a pass, I think I'd take a pass. I don't know. Short, seems like something half that length could achieve the desired effect.
I think the 14 pages is with like the boxes in there for answering. So it's that one's kind of a print version where you might be handwriting it. I think if you were to type it, it might not be that long.
Probably not, but it looks as though the expectation is that you're to fill the boxes. I don't know, it just seemed over the time, but I'll leave it at that.
Next week, we did say, so the January 30th workshop with Leslie, and she is going to be in the driver's seat for that, as far as the agenda and topics of discussion. Is that correct, Sky?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just writing a note now. I want to check in with her about that meeting and just make sure that there's not something she's waiting on from me or anything. So if there's something that CPIC needs to do, I will let you guys know.
Can I just jump in? Hi, Sky. Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm not there in person. I did notice there's a member of the public present, and we sort of skipped over public comment, which is agenda item 2.
Thank you so much, Robin. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, Sky.
Do we want to go public comment? All right, I'm going to allow you to talk, Mary. Sorry about that.
You'll have to unmute though.
Yeah, no, I don't have any comments, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Mary Henderson. I'm a member of the Topsham Democratic Committee, and we've decided to start a little newsletter about just really highlighting good works and what's going on in town. And I'm just listening and learning and writing little articles about it. And so I'm listening into a lot of meetings.
Mary, I'm just gonna say this as a town staff person. If you're ever in a meeting and you like want to be heard or anything, you are always welcome to raise your hand. Usually I'm a little better at keeping on top of it. Tonight I'm in the audience because of technical difficulties, but I just wanted you to know that since you said you're going to be listening to them, We definitely like to let our public interact, and a raised hand is always so helpful, so nice to have you.
No problem. Bye.
I'm gonna mute you now.
Thanks, Guy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
I don't know if you can see very well from the owl, but I'm like juggling things in the audience because our projectors are half broken right now, so I really appreciate that.
Sure. No, and that's what we're all here for, is to pitch in. You're like the tiniest little ant on my screen. Everybody's so tiny, except for me and Andy, but everyone in the town hall. And again, my apologies for not being able to come in person today. Okay, but I am taking the minutes, such as they are.
The next thing is the January 21st workshop. I think we talked about canceling that one because we're gonna be meeting with Julie on the 30th.
Leslie,
Sorry, Liz, oh gosh.
we lost Julie, unfortunately.
So I don't think any reason do we wanna reconsider that if, since we didn't get a quorum tonight, or just leave it at that if you've already canceled it on.
We've already canceled it. We could bring it back if you guys want to, but that would be a you decision.
No. Let's hold off and see how the next part goes. And that is the public feedback piece, so. You wanna run through that list, Scott?
Oh, yes, we're here, sorry. Yes,
I don't know
so,
if you could make it either bigger on that screen or project it up on this screen, I can't quite read.
I can't, that screen does
Okay.
not work. Here, let's zoom in on the words. So you can maybe read out, pull this up a little bit too. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, is that readable for you, Rick?
Perfect.
So if you guys want me to introduce this just really quickly, when we put together the public comment for you guys to review a couple months ago at this point, some feedback form responses were unfortunately missed. I don't know how it happened, but they slipped through the cracks. So I put them in. And what I thought would be good tonight is to just go through and classify them as something that you guys would need to talk about as center zone comments, and if you would want to bring them up to Leslie when you talk at the end of the month. Otherwise, we can, use another meeting to kind of classify them and answer them the way we did previously. That's what Rick and I talked about, and I think Susan as well.
That's my question for this is, how is that? I don't see how that's addressed by the recode effort,
Yeah.
or it's just, most of this sounds like a redirect to public safety, public works, or the only one I see here as potential is the heavy traffic and traffic studies, but
Yep.
again, that's beyond what recode is.
Yep. Robin or Andy, do you guys have any comments?
Hey, so we're looking at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comments. Is that what we're looking at?
I think
Roughly.
there's four in this section. It's the Barbara.
Okay, so
and
I'm looking
Robert.
at safety is a huge concern. Okay, so that's just a general. The safeties is addressed in our, I live at the intersection of Granite Hill and Winter Street, right before the Topsham Fair Mall hits Winter Street. Traffic is definitely increased, but I don't think that's an issue that we're gonna deal with. I think that has to go with traffic and the planning board and the traffic guidelines that we have with the state Maine Department of Transportation. I don't see how we're gonna come up with anything that our consultants should spend the time to address on the traffic.
Yeah, my sense, Andy, is that this was just an opportunity for people to give the town feedback of any kind. They didn't probably understand anything
Okay.
that much about Recode, but they're obviously, they needed a way to reach out to the town, so they recorded these comments and, you
So
know,
where did these comments come in from?
So they're from our feedback form, which, there's a
Okay,
QR code on a flyer that is up in the, main hall of the
Yep.
town hall next to the
Yep.
like posters,
Okay.
and a lot of people took those after early voting, so I think we might have gotten some around then. I wanted you guys to give your comments. We've heard comments like this before in the planning department and the manager's office. Part of the reason that the bike ped committee has been doing some work on a complete streets plan is this type of comment, and some traffic calming, interested in making them more, of like a consistent thing. So my opinion would be, yes, this is not involved with the Recode project, and that this is something that bike ped and the town is working on, but you guys are Recode.
I think that's in,
comment. So I just wanted
think-
to make sure none of you felt differently.
Yeah, I
No,
think that's in the right place, in the bike ped. I just did a bike ride right down here in my place in Florida this afternoon, and I was thinking how much nicer it is here than trying to move around in the Topsham Brunswick area.
And that would align with the bike beds, the complete streets plan, rate that they're going after.
Yep. Their complete streets work is somewhat in response to similar comments like this, so I would say the town's aware, we're trying to do what we can, it's just, takes time, as always.
It's kind of the same
Yep.
issue.
Does everyone agree with that?
Line item 38.
Sorry, this one's a little big, so I can scroll down a little bit, if you guys want. Let's see. Can you still read this, Rick?
Yep.
A lot of this is kind of addressed in our recode. I think it wouldn't hurt to share this with the consultants, but I don't know what more we could do.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this might be a comment that if Susan were looking at it, she would go like, thank you to, because some of it kind of seems like it's just commenting on what we're doing, but I would say anything that is kind of going on here that you guys aren't already doing in the center areas, maybe the R3 thing, isn't within the scope of the center zone, so that would be my thought, but if anyone else has thoughts about it, I'm happy to hear them.
Number 3 reads a little strangely. In R3, I would Leo to see. I assume that should be like.
I think it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I listed that under open space subdivision because that is what that would be, and that section could potentially use some work at some point, but it's not you guys.
Yeah, I would say, I think that maybe some wordsmithing in the response is warranted, like, number 1 and 2, that part of the RICO effort is trying to allow for more development of housing in the Topsham Center District. The R3 in the rural zones is, it's a code cleanup thing. We're not changing the current regulations in those areas.
It's okay for what I'm doing over here, we're gonna keep that.
Number four, green sidewalks seems to be more an observation than anything.
I think that would also somewhat fit with the
Complete streets plan.
complete streets plan, open space subdivision. That's something Josh and I have talked about, how, you know, if sidewalks are required in subdivisions, we would wanna write something in there to allow that to be the case in more rural ones, so I guess I would say that's on planning's radar currently.
Mhm. Good.
We don't really see developers trying to do that, so we would. If they wanted to, we wouldn't turn them away at all.
That was the answer to that one.
It is a good question. So where would that map reside in the revised overall?
Yeah, I think we had talked about trying to overlay it, and of all the things that I have going on that slipped through the cracks. It's probably not super difficult to do wise, but I may need to look into it. I think it's a good point. It's fair for people to wanna really explicitly see where it is. So
They're talking about two things. One is map
Mhm,
and the other is text use table.
mhm.
Is it fair to say that the use table, you don't really redline maps, we're not
Oh, no.
redistricting.
Yeah, I don't think that they're asking for a red line of the map. I think they're asking for a red line of the use table, and I think
Okay.
that would be a similar answer we've given to previous red line questions, that it's just such of a new thing that it is hard to have a complete red line, but we're gonna try to have materials that highlight what has changed as this goes through the process. You guys good with that? I'll write that in real quickly.
Yep.
Yes, to map. Yeah.
That's a good question for the consultants.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems extreme to allow it in all zones, but
Is this a new concept that I haven't heard of? It's very intriguing.
No.
Solar.
What I think they're talking about here is rooftop solar and so I'm not familiar enough with the way the new code is written. I think if it's, there's a distinction here between not allowing it in the Topsham in certain zones, but that's if it's just a standalone solar farm energy production purpose.
you know what?
Not if it's a rooftop
Yes.
to an accessory of
Thank
another use.
Thank you for remembering that, Rick, because I forgot it. I think accessory, okay, so I think you are correct. Accessory is probably allowed almost everywhere. If not everywhere, I think Tom's
Yeah, I
brought
think-
this up. I'm gonna write accessory use. Where is that allowed? If not in these zones, good question for consultants.
Right, because I think we will need to confirm, but I think the way the code is written, that those two examples would still be allowed in the areas they're referring to.
I think what she's referring to here are things that I've seen in couple of places in Massachusetts where a parking lot simply has, there's no roof per se, but the parking itself is covered with solar arrays.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And I love the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
that, I think that would still be accessory.
Still
I'm gonna
accessory.
check this with Tom, because as soon as you said that, I remembered that I think Tom brought up that accessory solar is like allowed like everywhere, it's actually very allowable, we might need to make that a clearer
Clear
something.
distinction.
Yeah, he also kind of brought up, like, I think one of his comments this fall was like making accessory uses more clear, so.
I don't think you'd want to allow that sort of covered parking in residential. So, yes, I don't know, I'm just trying to visualize what that would be more intrusive than solar on a roof of a
Yeah.
house, for example.
I'd be really doubtful that a resident, like, I think the only individuals in a residential zone that would try to do that would be like businesses. I'd honestly be
Who
surprised,
knows?
yeah. And I guess I would say, you know, if it's allowed in other areas where businesses are allowed, is there an issue? Like, we'd have to really regulate accessory then if we did.
And I believe, I don't know if we looked at, some of the red line versions from Tom may have addressed some of the square footage limitations as well, between large scale. Okay,
I'll add, just check with Tom. And I will clean these up at a later date when I'm not trying to see everything on my screen. It's EV chargers, if you guys weren't aware. It's allowed reductions. And if you'd like me to read the section that this is in relation to, I'd be happy to.
I certainly haven't memorized it.
Yeah. So the 9.50.4 is called allowed reductions. And it says, when the cost of installing electrical vehicle charging stations or EV-ready parking spaces required by this section would exceed 5% of the total project cost, the property owner or applicant may submit cost estimates for planning board consideration and request a reduction of applicable requirements that limit installation costs to no more than 5% of the total project cost. The planning board is authorized to approve such reductions in accordance with modification and waiver provisions. So I'm just gonna put this out there really quickly. Tom made a lot of notes about waivers. I don't know if this even still will look like this after his comments are taken into account. Just as you guys think about this, I wanna make that note.
yeah, this was also raised from the developer session, and at the last meeting, a little bit about, geez, we really mandating that a developer has to include EV, so I think my comment on this is the EV mandate needs to be revisited or looked at anyway, so.
Does anyone else have any comments on this?
So this should go to the consultant.
I
comment.
Yeah, I think it's already. Yeah, it should go to the consultant, I think it's already on the radar as one of the things to be discussed with the consultant.
Does that look good to you guys?
Yeah.
Alright, so we will, plan on discussing that section. Just wanted to make sure we got the whole question, actually. So I'm just gonna say that I think a big part of, well, I think part of this one is the typo that has just haunted us forever, that, someone accidentally removed solar from R3. So I'm gonna write that. The R2B one is kind of new to me, so this is good for bringing that up. I do not actually know what that is currently allowed as, but that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if we're trying to change that. We're not trying to change that outside of center zones. So that wouldn't even be your guys' purview, and we would want to try to change that back. So I'm gonna write that. Change. Right. Center zones. And I guess that's probably the answer for the whole thing, unless you guys feel like you need to discuss solar more in relation to the center zones. Does anyone else have any comments on that solar one, or? Great, we'll move on to.
That's a consultant issue, I would say.
Yeah, I want to say we brought this up at some point already. It's been, I feel like other people have brought this up. I don't necessarily think it's a new comment, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. If max height is gone from the rest of the code, that's a concern. So I would say let's check on maximum height.
And correlation with similar comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. I have no problem with doing that better. Just I can't. It's a little vague to get into too well for me right now.
Maybe need a little more context to wrap my head around this one.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about 40?
Item 40, yeah, 45.
Yeah.
So whether forming standards of 225 apply to centers only and outside zones.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by this one too, quite honestly. I guess maybe do we need clarification on what applies where would be what I would take away from this.
With you, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd almost have to look at the 225 standards to say, okay, what is not, what in the 225 standards that's not addressed in the center, or
We don't even have anything specifically called standards anymore. So I'm actually just a little unclear on this.
yeah, I guess you're gonna have to just do a little more.
Is this potentially, I think I might understand it. Yep, okay. I think additional articles need to be added for general performance and specific standards in 220. So in the current zone in code, we have general and specific performance standards. Those are basically going away with this draft. They've been incorporated in some places. Some of them are being put into site plan. That's an ongoing project that I am not done with. He is assuming that they will continue to be applicable outside the Topsham center zones. They will not be, because they are going away. This is a complete rewrite. So this is not to do with what you guys are doing like right now, but that is the answer here. This is my comment to that.
And you want to, sorry, people online, we had someone from the public to, you have some care to?
Oh, I'm actually looking for the community conference room.
It's upstairs. Are you
It's
looking for the
upstairs?
community center?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think they're starting at 5 or 5:30.
5:15, yeah.
Yes, yeah, if you go up the stairs and then you come out, and you walk towards like where the manager's office or planning is, it's on your left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Going to say, oh, it's interesting that a reporter wanted to be here for this meeting, which is not very interesting. But then I also realized that Mary is currently listening to our not very interesting meeting, so I shouldn't say that.
This goes back, 46 goes back in my mind to the very, very beginning where we were advised not to mess with upper, lower and middle village. With the boundaries of those, because this in a different way, this was something that I was interested in the beginning, because the zones as they're outlined isn't the way you perceive Main Street. And if you were doing it just based on what is currently there, I think it would be laid out differently. But and I no longer remember the reasons, but Rod and I don't know if Andy was here at the time or not, but they were very definite that it would be unwise to complicate things by shifting those boundaries.
Absolutely, I would not recommend you do that either. If you want to consider this question, I think you would want to consider making a few more things allowable in Middle Village. I'm not saying you do, but if you did, that is how I would suggest you go about it.
I would like to see this passed in my lifetime. I don't think we want to take on more issues.
I think that the response to the question was, the premise we've been operating under is that we're not.
Hey, Joe, how is your health anyway? Really? I had to throw that in there because I'm concerned.
Fair question. Fair question. Indeterminate, how about that?
Here, I got something for you.
Oh, I would say we're not altering the boundary limits of the current zones.
Yes, please don't do that. I don't want you to. That would be a headache for me.
Yeah. I think that's probably what this question is getting to.
So this is John Graham, who is the vice chair of the Historic District Commission. And he came in asking questions about a lot in the Middle Village. And I said, because he was like, oh, I can't do anything there. It's too bad. And I said, yeah, I understand Middle Village is rather restrictive. And I said, if you want to see something changed there, now is the time to do that, because that area is being altered through the recode and is in the center zone. So I'm not telling you that you have to do that, but I will just say that it is included in the center zones. He is right, there are existing uses there that are not residential. I think of all the comments you're going to look at today, when I was looking through these, this was the one that I most thought, do you want to discuss this with a consultant, what it could look like? If the answer is no, that is totally fine. This is your guys' choice. I just did want to give you, this isn't some random person. I did kind of specifically ask for this feedback. So yeah, wanted to give you that context.
To altering So what I'm saying, the premise we've been operating under so far is that we're not materially altering the boundaries. But what is allowed or, not allowed within those boundaries is open to discussion.
Do you guys want to include this in your discussion with us?
I think we do. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna keep, we're not materially altering boundaries of zone. Want to discuss uses with Leslie.
Yeah, because there was a bit of confusion there too in the developer meeting about middle and upper.
Yeah, you guys can read this and I can also give some context. I did speak with Victor about this.
That's not, are we on 47 now?
Yes,
That's not in our purview, is it?
no, I don't think
Okay.
so. I like to let you guys read the comments before
Yeah.
I steamroll ahead with my answer.
That's it. Yeah, it's not within the scope of RICO, but it's being addressed with the planning board.
Yeah, so
And it's very similar. And I think that this comment has appeared elsewhere.
yes, he's brought up the open space subdivision. I think it had some changes transferring over. I don't know if it was attempting to make it more clear, 'cause it's not the clearest section of the code we have, quite honestly, and it is actually really underutilized. But I agree with you guys, it's not within your scope, so this is not a you question. And kind of irregardless of that, I don't think the intent of this recode was to materially change the open space subdivision section. So it probably does need to be brought back to how it is now, so we can say, we're not changing this, it's what it is now.
Without the code in front of me, I don't know the example or illustration being referred to there.
I can pull it for you.
Don't we have another committee working on this, the bike ped committee?
We do, but you guys do have examples, in the code. And it does show cyclists in the travel way.
But those are just conceptual, those aren't, I
Yeah.
thought they were just conceptual.
We could request that they remove the cyclists from the images to not make it unclear. But I think that creating a whole bunch of thing about separate bike lanes would add months onto this project, so.
And I don't think that, I think that, again, was just a conceptual drawing and it's not intended to be law or part of the final regulations or guidelines. I think it's just the concept.
Or do we need to clarify that it is a conceptual drawing?
Well, it seems like the whole document is, all the illustrations are conceptual. So I think people just sometimes read things literally.
Yeah, and that's why I did a question mark, Robin, because I totally get where you're coming from, and I just kind of wanted to put that there, as I think that's the only action that would come from us out of this, is do we need to make it more clear that these are just, conceptual? I don't have the answer, that's why there's a
I
question
think we
mark.
just need to respond to the comment that,
Yeah.
these are just.
Yeah.
These are conceptual drawings and this portion of the code does not regulate street design.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it does.
It kind of does a little bit. So this is the master plan district. And it says street configuration. Bicycle accommodations, new streets within the development should accommodate bicycle access per the town's most recent planning documents. That's.
Let's see. We probably should flag this then for the.
Yeah. I'm gonna flag for consultants if everyone's good with that. Cause it is actually
Yep.
in a street design section. This next one's probably a totally fine change.
This would require going back and revising what was passed in 2019. Am I understanding that?
No, what they're requesting is that.
Oh, it's
In section 9, so this would be like. There,
A global search, because they say 9.1, which reads, the parking, mobility, and access regulations of this article are intended to protect, well, there's a typo there, the public health, safety, and general welfare by promoting economically viable and fiscally beneficial use of land, helping avoid the negative impacts that can result from requiring or allowing excessive supplies of off-street parking, e.g. stormwater runoff, heat island effect, adverse visual impacts, promoting bicycling and other forms of active transportation, and helping ensure safe mobility and transportation access options for town residents and visitors. If it's everywhere in 9, that's a different thing, but I guess I'm actually not really seeing the issue. Personally. I think the comment that I would like to do of this one is that I'm gonna read the parking section more in depth, because I am actually now looking at it a little concerned that maybe we're losing some pedestrian protections, so I think I'm gonna take a look at that and maybe share that with you guys and let you know if that's something we need to discuss or not.
good.
Is everyone good with just saying thank you for the comment? It seemed like it was just a kudos.
First to cover short-term parking. I assume she's talking still bicycles.
I think so, it's 9.40.4. Close to this reason. 9.40.4 is under bicycle parking, location and design, and it's, yeah, where they're required, short-term bicycle parking spaces Short-term bicycle parking spaces must be at least conveniently located, public bicycle. Okay. So we require covered long-term bicycle parking for large buildings and large multi-units. She's saying we do not currently require covered short-term parking. I kind of get where she's coming from, but I would be really shocked if a site could not meet their bicycle parking needs, quite honestly. A bike rack usually holds at least 5. I don't know if this would be just kind of a waste of effort.
It seems to me the sort of thing that would, yes, in a perfect world, it would be nice, but the sort of thing that would drive developers nuts. I know you can't phrase a response that way.
Yeah, I'm struggling with, it's supposed to have 10 spaces, but it can only fit 2.
I can't imagine a world where that would happen.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like a,
I think we could say this is beyond the level that CPIC
Yeah.
wants to go to. Because I can assure you, having worked with developers, if they can put in a metal bike rack or a covered shoe.
yeah, and I think putting in something like this would be counterproductive, because as a developer, I'm gonna say, okay, if I now have to cover those 2 spaces, fine, I'll find a place, I'll figure out how to make 10 uncovered.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, we don't even have a tenth of what one city in Japan has for population in our whole state.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this is a similar one, like, thank you, not level we're looking to go to.
There's 25 million people in Tokyo, right?
And I think they might have better bike infrastructure than we do.
And
Anyone-
crosswalk.
They would like me to change that answer, let me know now. Or if you're looking like you're thinking hard.
No, I just think, I'm just being cautious about being dismissive out of hand and trying to understand what's being asked.
Oh, I definitely would not phrase it that way in an answer. I think
Yeah.
just if we're saying that, we're bringing something new in with some of the requirements,
Just be honest.
yeah, there, and good point for bringing that up, that, thank you for bringing these up. We're already pushing things in one direction with what we're doing. Maybe in 5 to 10 years, this is something we should consider again.
That sounds good, Sky.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, sorry, these notes are not what I want people to see. I know this is recorded, but I would certainly want to be more thankful for their comments, but sometimes they're not within our scope. Oh, and this one is an email that I think you all saw from Dan Catlin, where he sent a link to how the Fairview Commons project took a long time to build. And basically, I think he was just asking for there to be more flexibility for projects that are approved under a certain code to stay under that certain code. Subdivisions have 5 years to be completed after their approval, and we would consider the zoning code when approval occurred. I think we should ask that it explicitly call out subdivision and site plan approvals in this section, but that's a really small note. It's not something you guys need to discuss. I don't think it's just a change, which is good. I can't really do much for site plans because the way it is written in our site plan ordinance, site plans are null and void after 1 year if you have not started construction. So I can't really say if you run out your site plan, but you originally had a site plan approved under the old code, you can you can do the old code again. So I think unfortunately site plans are just, if you're approved under the old code, you're gonna have to build it to that. You know, otherwise you might need to come back after the 1.5 years, cause you can get a 6-month extension, and use the code, so. Unless we change the times of site plans to, you know, maybe they have a 2 years with a 1-year extension, which we have tossed that idea around, but, I don't wanna promise that's gonna happen. I guess this would be my update for you. I'm aware of it. I think we should change something, but I don't really think it's something you guys need to discuss.
It's not something that CPIC, that we can deal with any.
Yeah, I think I just confused Susan because it got sent out and I just said, yeah, we should consider this as a comment. I didn't really mean that CPIC had to answer it necessarily, just that it should be considered a comment and entered into the record, but I think we've been really busy and thought I might have meant that first thing.
I think this was touched on in the town attorney's comments about triggering the approval before code changes and things like that. There was
Yes.
some discussion about, you know, when is the application, you know, I think the only question that it wasn't asked here, but it triggers in my mind would be how do some of those timings apply to master plan development sites? Because those would have a much longer lead time on completion, or is it once you initiate the phase 1 of the master plan, are you now locked in?
That's interesting, and you know what, I'm really glad you brought that up. I think we should actually talk to Leslie about that. If you guys wave your hands, those will come back on you. How we do it with subdivisions is like, that you have to meet the code at the time of approval for the phase, but yeah, I think we should talk to Leslie, and I think that's a great comment, Rick, thank you. I will make that actually visible. And that was all the comments that I could find. I didn't scour my email, but I'm pretty sure if I'd gotten comments, I would have passed them on. So these were just what I pulled from the feedback thing, and I think you guys have some things to talk about with the consultant since we've discussed that.
And that final comment, that was the one from. That was the extra comment from Dan following the.
Yes, yep, yes, thank you. Sorry, I was just thinking about the comment about the stacked bicycle parking. Cause you guys made me think about it a little bit, and I just wanted to note that I don't think that would not be allowed. You know, even if it's not explicitly called out on our code, if someone came to us and said, you know, we have to have this much bicycle parking and we wanna do this whole new thing, like, we'd be stoked. So.
All right, I think so, unless. Andy, Robin, anyone on the line, any other? 2 cents on these
It's hard to
comments?
hear. What did you say? What'd you say, Rick?
So yeah, just asking anyone on the line, anything else on these comments?
No.
Before we move on, or?
I'm all set.
Yeah, probably just clean up the responses and then distribute them to the
Yeah,
committee for any feedback before we pop them off to the consultant.
yes, yep, yeah, I will, tomorrow is supposed to be a CPIC day. Recode CPIC day.
The next bullet item is non-conformity question regarding the town center recode.
You remember what that was about?
Is that the spreadsheet that Julie had put together?
Oh, I wonder if Susan was just wanting to put it there in case we wanted to discuss. You guys all got the email that nonconformities enjoy more freedom under recode, right? Everyone saw that?
Yes.
Do we want to discuss that at all? I actually do think she just put it on there in case we wanted to discuss it.
No.
You guys
I
can
mean,
tell
if
that.
we do, it should be maybe if Susan put it on there, wait till she comes back.
Yeah, if you guys wanna bring it up, then you absolutely can. I think she just wanted to give people the chance to, you know, if you had feelings about it or questions, we could discuss it. So if anyone does mention them, we can mention them again when Susan comes back. Or Rick and I can share it with her at some point, but it sounds like none of you have questions or concerns.
Planning department update?
We did get a updated scope from the consultants. Mark and I have not had time to sit down and talk about it, but, the cost was not egregious, in my opinion. I think it should be fine to move ahead with that work plan that you guys saw, I think, at some point in the past couple of months. We're moving slowly, but purposefully, it feels like to me. I wanna make sure there's no things that we rush through that aren't good. I know you guys just hear the word rush and you're like, what? It's been years, but, I really wanna see this happen, and I really want it to go through and, you know, not cause a whole bunch of future headaches, so we're trying to make sure that's happening, and I think we'll be good to go forward with the consultant participation that we've discussed, so that would be my update for
Great, then liaison updates, unless I know. Andy, you got an update?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know what's going on with with TDI and relative to our infrastructure study. We are gonna have a presentation by the engineers, I think it's February 4th or 5th. At our 7:30 in the morning, board meeting. What we found out in the interim is, and I might have even mentioned this at the last meeting, but the cost is gonna be huge. And when I say huge, I mean really huge, and that's to get the sewer and, and the water infrastructure on the west side of 295. But in addition to that, we found out that we don't have adequate, water and sewer right now to even do much expansion at the mall or even any expansion in the vacant lots that we have on the east side without major infrastructure costs, including probably a new water tower, just for the east side. So these things are gonna, I mean, the study's gonna help us a lot because we're gonna have to start planning long-term, but this does mix in with CPIC's duties too. I mean, it's great, we're gonna ask for this type of development, but what if we don't have the infrastructure to do any of the development that we want to? So
Careful what you wish for.
exactly, I guess that's what I'm saying. So we're gonna know more. I'm actually getting a draft report from the engineers on the 17th of this month, and they're gonna present to us. So by our February meeting, I should have some numbers to share with you. And then, of course, we're gonna have to start planning because it's, you know, the developers can't do all of it. The town can't do it all. It's gonna have to be some type of PPP program that will work with the public-private developers and how we raise those monies. So just an alarm, nothing more, but it is a little scary. That's all I have.
Was
And
that a big surprise, Andy?
Yeah, I think it was, because I can't remember how many years ago they did a study. They just didn't go into the depth that we asked them to go into this time. I think it was more of just hey, here's a concept of what might cost to get the infrastructure, but they didn't really know what they needed for infrastructure for example, you can't just take the water over, you've actually got to loop it back around either into the system that goes out River Road through private property that would have to get easements, or we loop it, say we take it, carried under the bridge over to the west side, but then we bring it back, you know, drilling underneath 295. I don't know, but there's that, and there's the water pressure. As the town has done some development, we haven't really done well, I'm not gonna, this is recorded, so I'm saying this from an Andy Sturgeon perspective, not anything other than I don't think we've done a good job looking into the future as we expand our infrastructure. So maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
Robin, did you have a question or something?
Oh, gosh, thanks, Sky. I was just curious if Andy, if you had a ballpark, number, or is that going to be in the report and you wait to share?
I don't have a number. I mean, yeah, it's between 7 and 70 million, somewhere between there.
It's a big range. Thank
It
you.
is. It is, and so that's why I made that, to answer your question, made that such a large range, because I don't know. I mean, I think we were hoping 15 million or something, but I think it's gonna be a lot more than that. But we don't, again, we'll know more in about a month, less than a month.
Just to clarify for minutes, Andy, so there's limited infrastructure for development at the Topsham Fair Mall because of the current status of our water district? Is that what you were saying? I'm trying to get.
No, I think we have enough development for the Topsham Fair Mall as it exists today, but say if we were gonna extend the water over to the northeast quadrant, there certainly isn't enough to do the development there. And there's probably enough to do single-story buildings on Topsham Fair Mall. If someone came in with a concept like our conceptual drawings of multi-stories with with a commercial on the first floor and maybe, retail on the first floor, commercial on the second or third, and then housing above. You just don't have the water pressure to get to multi-story buildings right now. So you gotta build some additional infrastructure. But that's gonna be a comprehensive plan, report that comes out that we'll all be able to share and again, that will come out in February.
Any updates on the test case, concept development with the new code, or is that still kind of on the back burner, time permit?
You heard the last thing I heard. If you were at the developers workshop, you heard the last thing I heard. And it was a time issue.
Yep. Any other liaison? Mary, any comment from you and anything else on your mind after what we've been discussing?
I don't think so. I wonder if there's any federal dollars that could help with the infrastructure problem, but I don't know anything.
Oh, yeah, we certainly are gonna study that, and Mark is, our town manager, is very aware of what's going on. He's sitting in these meetings, and we're gonna be creative, and we're gonna apply for grants, and we're gonna look, because our situation isn't unique. I mean, this has happened all over the country, if not the world, and we need to find funds to make sure, that we can do this expansion, that's all. It's just a matter of, the great thing is that we have probably the best location. We're equal distance from Lewis and Augusta and Portland at an intersection with Route 1 and 295 and 196, and it's just, it's a prime spot for development. So I think it will happen. It's just, when and how much is it gonna cost?
All right, well, if there's nothing else, and I think safe to adjourn and look for some email traffic, and then look for meeting with Leslie on the 30th.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you
See ya.
all.
Thank you.